My father used to say it like a badge of honor. My business partner is a billionaire. He didn't shout it. He didn't brag loudly. He said it calmly, confidently, like it was a fact as permanent as the sun rising in the east. As a child, I believed him without question. Why wouldn't I? He was my father, the man who taught me to tie my shoes, solve math problems, and never let anyone see my fear. Our house was small, our car old, but he always said it was temporary. We're building something big, he'd tell me. Real success takes patience. I grew up on those words. I imagined boardrooms with glass walls, powerful handshakes, and my father standing among giants. When other kids dreamed of superheroes, mine wore suits. After my mother died, the stories became darker, heavier. Dad worked longer hours. His voice lost warmth. Success was no longer a dream. It was an obligation. Mine, you'll study business. He decided one night over dinner. You'll understand this world better than I ever did. I thought it was pride. I thought he believed in me. Years later, diploma in hand, I expected applause. Instead, he frowned. This is just the beginning, he said. You're still behind. Then came the offer. I want you to join my company, he told me. Learn from me from the inside. It felt like destiny, like everything he'd promised was finally becoming real. I didn't see the warning signs, the rushed paperwork, the documents he asked me to sign without explanation, the way he avoided my questions. Trust me, he said. Family doesn't need contracts. I trusted him. I didn't know my name was being used for loans. I didn't know my future was being gambled away. I didn't know the billionaire partner existed only in words. All I knew was that I wanted to make him proud. The first crack appeared the day I overheard 2 employees whispering. If the bank finds out, one said quietly, we're finished. When I asked my father about it, his eyes hardened. You worry too much, he snapped. Stay in your place. That was the moment something shifted inside me. Not suspicion yet, just confusion, but confusion is the beginning of truth, and the truth, when it comes, never knocks gently. Working beside my father felt nothing like the future he had promised. The office wasn't grand, no glass walls, no quiet power, just tension hanging in the air like something rotten. Employees avoided eye contact. Meetings ended abruptly when I entered. At first, I thought it was respect. Then I realized it was fear. I was given small tasks, meaningless ones, filing, scheduling, watching from the sidelines. Every time I asked to learn more, my father dismissed me. Later, he said, you're not ready. Yet at night, he brought home exhaustion and anger, snapping over small things, drinking silence instead of speaking. The man who once lectured me about integrity now avoided my questions like they were traps. The numbers were my first warning. Invoices unpaid, accounts moved without reason, contracts signed twice under different names. I stayed late one evening, staring at the screen until the office lights shut off automatically. My chest tightened as patterns emerged, patterns I wished I couldn't see. That's when I found it, a loan document. Large, dangerous, signed with my name. My hands went cold. I opened another file, then another. My signature repeated again and again, slightly altered, perfectly forged. My father had built his empire on my identity. I confronted him at home. He didn't deny it. Instead, he sighed like I had disappointed him. You wouldn't understand, he said. This was necessary. You destroyed my future. I whispered. He finally looked at me. Really looked, and his eyes were empty. Family sacrifices, he replied. You owe me. Everything you are comes from me. Something broke that night. Not loudly, quietly, like glass crumbling into dust. I realized then that love, in his world, was ownership. I stopped arguing. I stopped pleading. I started listening. I learned about the so-called billionaire partner. How no one had met him, how meetings were postponed, how excuses replaced evidence. The lie wasn't just told to me. It was holding the company together by fear alone. I resigned a week later. My father laughed. You'll fail without me. He said, you always needed my name. I didn't correct him, because while he believed I was walking away, I was stepping closer, to truth, to power, and to a revenge he would never see coming. Blood may connect you, but loyalty, that's a choice, and I had finally made mine. The board meeting was scheduled for Friday morning. My father mentioned it casually over the phone, his voice filled with the confidence I once admired. "The investors are nervous," he said, "but once my billionaire partner joins the call, everything will settle." I almost laughed. Almost for weeks I had prepared quietly. I gathered documents, traced transactions, and followed trails he believed were buried forever. I didn't rush. Revenge born from anger is sloppy. I wanted clarity, not chaos. That morning, the boardroom buzzed with forced optimism. Executives sat straighter than usual, hands folded too tightly. My father stood at the front, rehearsing his speech under his breath, adjusting his tie-like armor. I wasn't supposed to be there, yet when the doors opened, I walked in anyway. Conversation died instantly. Every head turned. My father froze mid-sentence. His face lost its color, as if the room had drained him of air. "You're not on the agenda," he said sharply. I met his eyes, calm and steady. "I am today." Behind me, others entered. Investors, legal counsel, auditors. The kind of people whose presence doesn't ask permission. I took my seat at the table, placing a folder in front of me with deliberate care. The chair across from me, his chair, suddenly looked smaller. The meeting began, but it didn't follow his script. Questions came faster, sharper. Numbers he once waved away now demanded answers. When he tried to deflect, I opened the folder. Documents slid across the table, forged signatures, unauthorized loans, false guarantees, my name. The room filled with murmurs, disbelief thickening the air. One investor leaned back slowly, eyes never leaving my father's face. "You said your partner was a billionaire," someone said. I spoke before he could. "He is." All eyes turned to me. I didn't inherit it. I continued quietly. "I built it, away from lies, away from stolen names." My father's mouth opened, then closed. For the first time in my life, he had nothing prepared. Security arrived when the lawyer stood. His title was stripped with professional politeness. His authority vanished in minutes. As he was escorted toward the door, he finally looked at me, not with anger, not with pride, but with disbelief. The doors closed behind him. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was clean, and in that stillness, I understood something clearly. The lie that raised me had finally been buried. And truth, once revealed, doesn't whisper, it walks in and takes a seat. Power is loud when it's stolen, but when it's earned, it settles quietly, like sunlight filling a room without asking permission. Months passed after the board meeting. The company didn't collapse like my father predicted. It healed, debts were restructured, employees were paid on time, and trust slowly, carefully returned. I didn't rule with fear. I didn't need to. Truth had already done the hard work. One evening, I stayed late in the office, standing by the window that overlooked the city. This was the view my father used to describe when he spoke of success. Yet he had never stood here, not really. He had chased the image, not the responsibility. A knock interrupted my thoughts. He stood in the doorway. Smaller than I remembered, older. His shoulders sagged under the weight of a life built on shortcuts. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence between us carried years of disappointment, regret, and unspoken grief. "I didn't think you'd let me in," he said quietly. "I didn't know if I should." I replied honestly. He looked around the office, the order, the calm, the absence of chaos. His eyes lingered on the nameplate on my desk. He swallowed. "I did everything for you," he said, his voice cracking. "I wanted you to have more than I did. I didn't argue." I finally understood his fear, but understanding doesn't erase damage. I needed guidance. I said softly, "Not ownership." He nodded slowly, like someone hearing a truth too late. I offered him help, not a position, not influence, not power. Just support, therapy referrals, financial counseling. A chance to rebuild something real, even if it was small. That was my revenge, not humiliation, not cruelty, not destruction, but becoming everything he pretended to be, without becoming him. When he left, the office felt lighter. I sat back down, opened my laptop, and signed off on a scholarship fund for employees' children. No press release, no applause, just impact. Later that night, I thought of the child who once believed in a billionaire partner who didn't exist. That child didn't know the truth then, but they carried it anyway. because the greatest betrayal didn't break me. It built me, and the sweetest revenge wasn't watching him fall. It was standing tall, honest, whole, and finally free.